So let's welcome Emma. She's a senior at ConVal. Let me be clear about that. Emma Canty-Carrel. Thank you.
That's actually pretty good. I remember the moment when you told me. That's okay. That's good. Good timing. Okay. I remember the moment when he told me. My dad and I had been sitting on our couch in the living room watching Mythbusters or Survivor or something like that when his phone rang. He picked it up and stayed sitting next to me, and it didn't seem like anything out of the ordinary until I looked over and saw that he was staring at me with this strange look on his face, and he promptly got up and left the room. Honestly, I thought I was in trouble. I was trying to remember if I had gotten a bad grade on a test or maybe gotten into a fight with my mom, but for once, I couldn't think of anything. So I was getting more and more nervous, and by the time he came back in a few minutes later, I was pretty freaked out, and rightly so. He sat down next to me, and he started with, "Everyone's okay," which naturally made me feel so much more calm. He said, "There's been a fire at Beanie and Bumpy's house." When I was pretty little, about 3 or 4, my mom and I lived with my grandparents in their house on Wallace Road. My parents separated when I was about 3 months old, so it was difficult for my mom and I, with her trying to finish up school and support us and work. So my grandparents quickly became like my 3rd and 4th parents. When I was born, they didn't quite feel old enough yet to be Grandma and Grandpa, so they tried to come up with nicknames that I could call them. Naturally, my grandmother tried to get me to call my grandpa Grumpy, but I came up with Bumpy instead. And I was supposed to call my grandmother Banani. I'm still not sure where that came from. But it turned into Beanie, and from then on, they were known as Beanie and Bumpy to me, my mom, my dad's side of the family even, and all of their coworkers and friends. It caught on quickly. After my dad told me, I didn't know what to think. I started trying to run through all of the memories that I had of that house and of the past 15 years of my life. I thought of how I really grew up in that house. When people asked me where I grew up, I never was sure what to say because my mom and I had moved around all over the state, as had my dad, and as of now, I remember living in 15 different houses or apartments or trailers, and living in 7 different towns. Wherever we went, I had a hard time finding friends that I could really connect with, and I had a hard time in school focusing academically, socially, and a difficult time at home as well. I unconsciously began to think of everything as temporary. When people spoke of home and that sense of security and permanence and that one place where everyone you love the most gathers, I didn't understand. I didn't really have that in my reality. I had a different home. I had that house on Wallace Road, that house that I did more growing up in than anywhere else. It's where I learned to read with my grandfather, where we would have story time every night, sitting in their bed, reading the tales of Uncle Wiggily and the secrets of Droon. I've since then graduated to more difficult novels, but I still love going back to those. It's where I would sit on the red futon in the TV room with my grandmother and eat chocolate bar upon chocolate bar upon chocolate bar. It's where I finally beat my grandparents at Scrabble, which is quite a feat. So after my dad told me, all of these things were running through my head, and I was trying to hold on to every memory that I had in that house, and I quickly realized that I couldn't hold on to them. Going back to the house after the fire, they started to come back to me, but it was different because I was seeing the house in a different way. It was like there was a gray screen in front of everything that I was seeing, and the stench of smoke just permeated everything. The white tiles of the kitchen weren't white anymore. The brightly colored wallpaper was peeling off the walls. My red futon was crispy. The TV was melted on the floor, and ironically, I remember standing in front of this for a few minutes actually. The fire alarm in the living room had melted down the wall. Didn't do much good. While I can definitely say that this was one of the most difficult things, probably the most difficult thing that I've had to go through, since then, I've begun to look at things differently and realize that there's more than one side to everything. That house, it gave me that sense of home and that understanding of security and family and love that I really needed when I was growing up. And losing it showed me that I had so much of that, and in more than just that house. I realized that I had a home in the homes of my best friends that I made at this school. I realized that I had a home here on this very stage with all of my friends that I did drama with, or do drama with. I realized that I had a home wherever my grandparents were living, wherever my mom was living and my dad was living. And I realized that that could be enough. Losing the house taught my family that we really needed to pull together and appreciate each other more and recognize that we could find a home in each other.